question. What if it's winter? Well, in the videos you saw previously, the weather was nice, we didn't have to worry about anything except keeping ourselves warm during the warm-up. Well, in the winter, it's not that bad actually. Just make sure you go out when it's dry, then it doesn't matter how cold it is. At least for me, that's what works. And one trick that I learned in the army was to use layered clothing. Now, it's not necessarily good to always have a skin-tight layer underneath. For instance, when you sleep in a sleeping bag, you will actually have much warmer the less clothing you wear. That's because you have air in between the thickest layer and yourself, so there's air between the skin and the material. And this is what will keep yourself warm. But usually I keep a tight compression layer and then I add on top more layers. And you know, when you train in the cold, when you go out at first, you can choose. Either you're gonna freeze in the beginning or you're gonna have very hot in the middle of the training. Well, to solve this issue, what you can do is, let's say you live in the city and you're planning to go out for a nice little run in the park. What you can do is you put on the extra layers so you feel warm when you go outside. You take a jog around the block, you come back in and you remove that extra layer and then you start to train. Now, I do this sometimes, but sometimes I prefer to do the warm-up actually indoors. If you have a staircase or if you just can do push-ups, sit-ups or air squats, you can increase the body temperature enough so that when you go out, it's easy to actually start training with a little bit less clothing on. In the summer, it's maybe easier. You go to the park, you take off your sweater when you're warm. In the winter, it's maybe not that tempting to start doing this. And what I'm trying to avoid when I'm training outdoors in the winter is actually to get too wet from sweat. And if I do get really sweaty, I mean, that's great. That's no problem as long as I just keep warm and maintain that body temperature all throughout the workout. And once the workout is over, I just make sure I have dry clothing or just keep myself warm afterwards. Now, if it rains, you want to go out and train while it rains, my number one tip there is to use some kind of cap, something to protect your face so that you don't get water drops in your face. That's the only annoying thing, whether it's snowing or raining. And if you have something to protect your face, you actually won't notice it. And okay, the first runs you make, the first exercise you do, when you first get wet, okay, you'll feel that. But if you can keep your face sort of dry, then it won't bother you as much. Now, when it comes to the exercises to do outdoors, the ones that I demonstrated in the summertime are maybe not the ones that I would recommend performing in winter. Especially speed training, plyometrics, and quick bursts of any kind of movement I would refrain from. The issue there is that the muscles are very cold. Even if you warm up and you wear a lot of different layers, they are cold and there's always a risk for injury. So my favorite exercise, if I have to go out, and I still do this, I might even do it tonight, I will go out, I will walk to a nearby park, I will do hill runs. Now, the warm-up here is not as thorough as I do it in the summer, because in the summer, I actually kind of enjoy being outside. In winter, that's not always the case. So I would walk, not even jog, maybe jog, but most likely I would walk to the park. I will look for a nice path, maybe about 300 meters long, if I can find one that's in an uphill. And I will, without warming up in a particular way, I will do an acceleration run all the way, so a full 300 meters. And I will do it very carefully to make sure that my body is just warming up. And then I will walk down, but I wouldn't walk down all the way. I would leave about 20 meters and make it a little bit shorter, and then right away do another acceleration run. And I will continue doing this, making the sets shorter and shorter. and try to keep moving and just accelerate for every run. And I would say in about after 4 runs I would feel comfortable to going almost at full speed. Now the reason why I always make these runs shorter, it's not because it would develop speed in a particular way, it's simply because it's mentally much easier. If I have to decide to run, let's say 10 times 200 meters, it's very difficult mentally to do it. After 4 runs, you start questioning yourself, you start counting too much, especially if you train alone. It's very difficult to motivate yourself to do and complete all the runs. Because the idea is not to have the best training ever. The idea is to have so much fun that you actually want to come back and do it again one day. So that's my mental cue. I try to shorten it, and if possible, I try to use light posts or something that I can see in the park, that maybe it's trash cans, so I can sort of measure like what distances I'm going to run. And I use those marks, and once I'm down to 20 meters or so, then I check, okay, how do I feel? Maybe I should go to a nearby staircase and do some quick feet upstairs, or maybe I should just jog home. It depends really how I feel. But usually during the hill sprints, that's enough for me. Now, if I decide to go to a running track, in the winter it might be a bit risky because usually it's covered either with snow or ice, maybe both. And in those cases, of course, you can use spikes. I showed the spikes in the previous video. But using spikes, that's more for speed training. And as I mentioned before, I would refrain from doing speed training. So if I won't use spikes and I can't use the track, what I usually do is I take a medicine ball and I perform the throws that you could see in the previous videos as well. And by doing the throws, as long as I have gloves on, it's usually not a problem. There as well, I try to do it slowly, the first throws, and then I get into it. And again, it's not about doing a really good workout, it's about actually performing a workout. Now, of course, we looked at the summer exercises, and now in the winter, maybe not the point is maybe not to just adapt the summer exercises for winter conditions. What we could do, of course, is enjoy the winter sports. So you can go ice skating and cross-country skiing. These are all good options, and usually you can find the right equipment for it as well, and the clothing for it. A lot of people do it a lot, so it might be easier actually to accommodate the winter sports into your regular life than to try to implement all the summer exercises for the winter season. Now, last but not least, nutrition-wise, there's a small difference between the summer and the winter. For me, it's mainly because of the risk of cramps. Especially when I'm running on a hard surface in the winter, there's always a risk that I will get cramps in my calves, and I'll be trying to find out what could help prevent this. I try to use compression socks, I try to use tape, I try to have tighter shoes, looser shoes, try to warm up the calf a little bit differently, try to do strength exercises for the calf before training. I try to cut down the training before, but the one thing that I've seen to work the best is actually to supplement with magnesium. And it's not enough to just take magnesium before the workout. You actually have to do it a week or so continuously on a regular basis. So when you take, in the morning when you eat breakfast, you take magnesium, and before you go to bed, you can take magnesium also just to help the body relax a bit more. So it's actually a sleep aid as well. So you might want to try that in the winter season if you have issues with cramps. Another thing you can also do is try to avoid using creatine and other supplements that will gather too much water in your body, or a lot of carbohydrates that would cause inflammation in your body. So that will keep sort of your muscles tighter, your body tighter, and hopefully that will help. So I hope you don't wait for the summer to go out and train, and good luck with your training. I'm Snaell the Fit Businessman, and I'll see you at work.